But I want to know, because I went to the Husker games. I don't know how it's going to come off to everybody. I had a lot of fun in these Husker games. I know there wasn't the crowd there that's usually there, but specifically to see former players like yourself out there, kind of the Pro Bowl jersey atmospheres for the players that weren't in participating in some of it. And then we obviously got some football as well. So I'd like to start to get your thoughts on the Husker games. Did you feel like this was a success?
Well, it depends on how you determine a success. If you're looking at the amount of people in the crowd, no, not even close. The smallest spring game crowd I've ever seen in my life was 33,000. And that was my first spring game. Okay. And outside of that, it was always like 50, 60, 80, 90, 70. It just so happened the first one I ever had was 33, and that was the smallest the year that I redshirted. The crowd on Saturday, I know they sold 7,000, 8,000 tickets or something like that. I don't know if there was that many people there or not. I'll tell you where there was a lot of people was the garage sale.
That's right.
That's where there was a lot of people. There was a line around the block. There was people gobbling stuff up. There was people filling up garbage cans. People took home truckloads of stuff. So if you gauge it by that, the answer is no. Is that the only gauge? No, that's not the only gauge. Was it entertaining? Was it fun? Did you get to see things you'd never seen before? Did you get to see things you never thought you'd see? Did you get to see Huskers from the past compete against current Huskers? Yes. Did you get to see current Huskers compete against each other? Yes. Did you get to see Huskers from the past compete against each other? Yes. Did you get to see some live actual football? Yes. Did you get to see Marcos Davia, TJ Lateef run some plays? Yes. If you gauge it on those parameters, then it was a success. I think as an overall whole, like I've mentioned, college football needs to fix itself sooner rather than later. I do think there's light at the end of the tunnel. My only question mark is, how big is the tunnel? How long is the tunnel? How long before we get to that light? I do think the light is there. I just don't know what the timetables for some of these things look like. All right. The revenue sharing, we don't have an answer there yet. There may be a possibility that we don't have to narrow down to 105. Is that a correct thing you've heard as well, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, they that's what seems the judge is kind of holding up the whole thing right now, is they don't want to hurt the current athletes that are on teams.
So, again, I see a light. I just don't know if it's bright, really bright, kind of bright, or way down there. But I think people are a little soured on college football as a whole right now. I think some teams not having spring games turn some people off. Now, I think most people understand the why. The post-spring portal, which we are now in, and players getting posts and things of that nature. I think that makes sense to most people. It doesn't mean they like it, and most people want to go to a spring game. They want to see actual football. They want to see the ones and twos out there for a certain amount of plays, and then the next group, and then the next group, and you want to see who's the young guy that's up and coming. And you got an opportunity to kind of see some of those things on Saturday. I think if you went, I haven't talked to many people who went who were like, I didn't enjoy it. Most people had a blast. Most people thought it was really good. And I don't blame the folks who weren't interested in going. I completely get it. There's a lot of frustration to go around with a lot of things. Coaches, GMs, ADs, they're frustrated right now with the way things are. I'm just going to throw this out there again. College football commissioner Adam Carriker. I'm just saying it. As much as I don't like Roger Goodell, I don't look at him from a business standpoint. I don't look at him from an NFL owner standpoint. I don't care how much money the NFL makes. I look at him from a former player standpoint. From a former player standpoint, I don't like him. If I took off the former player's hat and sunglasses and I just looked at him in a business standpoint, those NFL owners love him for a reason. There's one central figure who's in charge of everything, who's making the best decisions as best he can based on what's best for 32 teams. Not what's best for the NFC East or AFC North or NFC West, AFC South, which is what's happening in college football. So there's frustration abounding for a lot of people involved in the sport. But for those who went to the games, I thought it was fun. I thought there were some cool things you'd never see. I mean, did you ever think you see John Cook roping? You got to see who the fastest Husker is, at least of the healthy ones right now in a 40-yard dash, Ja'Cory Barney. You got to see skills challenges. You've got to see media members catching punts. Sean Callahan caught a punt. Mitch Sherman caught a punt. Damon Benning caught a punt. There was more. I did this in my gut reaction, too. I spaced off everyone that was there. So if I didn't mention your name, I apologize. I do know rules like called for Sam McEwen. Sam never misses anything, but he wasn't there Saturday, so because that would have been fun to see him catch a punt. Everybody who tried caught at least one. So those things are unique and cool things you may never see again. Like, and props to those guys who went out there and did that, especially if that's not your forte. So I thought that was pretty cool. So because I have this history with long snapping. That history, if you don't know, is every coach I've ever freaking had in football tried to make me a long snapper, starting in middle school to high school to college to the Rams to the Redskins. I still don't know why. I suck and I'm not good and I'm awful. What about me looks like a long snapper? Anyways, so the long snapping competition, Kevin Galick won, which was good to see. That is not easy. So they had the pylon or whatever it was, about 15 yards back, 17, whatever it is. He nailed about every single one right on time, quick, sharp, accurate. And as much as we struggled with snaps last year, that was something I was paying attention to. You know, watching coach, because Brett Maher is helping with the kickers this year, go against player. Brett Maher, Tristan Alvano, kicking challenge. I thought a lot of it was fun. Now, in my gut reaction afterwards, I said, we need football, though. The NFL is the most widely watched thing on television, not sport, thing that you can watch on TV. It's far and away ahead of everything else. A distant number 2 is college football. I've said this before. Number 3, there's a gap between 1 and 2, and then there's a gap between 2 and whatever 3 is. I haven't looked in a while. Whatever the third most watched thing on TV is, there's a gap. That means football is 1 and 2. The football season is the shortest season of any sports season there is. Baseball being the longest, if we're thinking of pro sports. Baseball is the longest. Basketball, football is the shortest. The college seasons are relatively similar. For me, I don't think you can get enough football. Now, if we have the UFL and all these spring football leagues, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I sit here and watch every single one of them. Much love to them. Hopefully they all do well, get chances in the NFL one day. But that's where the multi-sport guy in me comes in. Like, all right, now it's basketball, now it's this, now it's that. But when it comes to Nebraska football, and again, I understand why they didn't have a spring game. I think they did the best they could with the situation they had, which was no spring game, Husker games, and I thought they actually did a pretty good job. And most people who attended, and I understand why a lot of people didn't, most people who attended, I think had a really good time. I enjoyed it. I had fun. I hadn't seen Josh Bullocks in 20 years. First of all, I thought it was Daniel walking up to me. So shocker there.
Yeah, do they age the same as well? Or they still look the same?
I instantly knew it was a Bullock twin.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was Daniel. I mean, it's the freaking NFL draft. He's in San Francisco. I guess I didn't know that Josh lived in Omaha. And so Josh comes over and says hi. And we're chatting, and man, and I was like, when's the last time you played at Nebraska? Because that was the last time I talked to him. He goes, 2005. It's 2025. It had been 20 years. That's pretty cool. So that all being said, I hope to God next year there is no post-spring portal window, which means we don't have to worry about poaching, which means we can have a spring game, which then opens doors to the potential of spring games versus other teams. Already explained why I've liked that idea ever since I was a kid. Deion Sanders, of all people, is the one that put it out there. And immediately people were like, oh, it's Deion, this is a terrible idea. And I'm like, wait, I don't think that sucks. I like that idea. And now it's actually caught a little bit of traction. Like I said it's okay, now the rest of the world thinks it's okay. Did you notice that, Jake? I'm just saying.
You could be the commissioner, maybe, yeah.
I'm just saying. It wasn't that Deion said it. It's that Adam Carriker said it, and it caught traction. That's what I'm going to tell myself. I love the idea of potential joint practices. Because now you create just more than a spring game that fans are going to be attracted. I mean, fans are attracted to practice and spring practice, and it's the only football you get for months in between the end of one season, beginning of another. But if I could go down, it depends on who you're going against. Like if it's Northern Iowa, that's cool. If it's Colorado, I still think that's a terrible idea, highly entertaining, but don't pick a rival or a conference opponent. Syracuse, I'm just going to pull one out of my keister. Syracuse, Georgia Tech, whoever. Maybe some fans are going to hate this. Maybe it's Alabama or Georgia one day. Maybe we really want to test our mettle. It's just the spring. What's it going to hurt? Make yourself better. I don't know. That becomes a lot more appealing to me. With the hand that we were dealt this year, I think they did as good as they can do. I hope the hand we're playing next year looks a whole lot different. What are your thoughts, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way of kind of looking at it. I still think it was, I was one that went, and I brought my son there for the first time, his first Husker Games game, first time in Memorial Stadium. He's 4 years old. It gets a little loud in there, so I was waiting until a good opportunity. This was a good opportunity because I know it wouldn't be as loud. And so he enjoyed it. We met Herbie and Lil Red and all that, so I had a lot of fun doing that. So that might have maybe amplified my experience, I suppose. But I really liked it. I've been saying for years, the spring games, intriguing, and there's nothing that replaces football. But you do have a walkout crowd at some point, and so I think intermingling some of these deals that they had there throughout in normal spring game formats, if we never had anything getting in the way, would have been a great idea. And they did that with Bo Pelini a number of years back. Kenny Bill kicking field goals, offensive linemen catching punts, that sort of thing. And I thought that was entertaining. So I hope maybe they learn a little bit if they do go back to the spring game, that they learn a little bit of this, add that little entertainment element. The players, you could tell, probably had more fun in this game than at times maybe a third quarter of a normal spring game, so that sort of thing. But so I thought it was a great success. I have heard I didn't get to go to the garage sale, as you put it, but that's everybody that went feels like that was a once in a lifetime experience. So I thought it was just very cool, and like you were kind of saying, a good pivot from what they had. I think if they would have originally never said, "Hey, we're not having a spring game," but rather said, "Okay, the spring game is going to be a little bit different this year. I'm sorry, there's going to be a little less of the starters playing, but we're going to add some entertaining elements." If that would have been from the forefront, then I think you would have had a much bigger crowd. Because just talking to people, I know some people were like, "I didn't know there was the garage sale." Like, I didn't really, some people just, as much as they tried to get it out there, just didn't really know, because it was fractured about what you would do with your Husker games, because there's different events going on at the same time. So you got to make your own decision. And so we all just kind of decided where we wanted to go. I chose football.
That's a phenomenal point, because I've sat here and I've said it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Had they said, we're having because we had football. Had they said, we're going to have a spring game. These guys are going to play in the game. These guys are going to participate in skills. Oh, by the way, you can come get this once in a lifetime memorabilia. Oh, I guarantee you have a lot more people there. I think we know they were figuring it out as time went along. And in this day and age of football, unfortunately, I don't know how you can change that. It just is what it is. College football is trying to figure itself out right now. But had they had that all planned and marketed it from day one, because the first thing I heard about this was way back in February. Somebody goes, "We might have a spring game this year." And I was like, what? Like, think back to February when we first heard this. That thought wasn't ASA 7 or ASA 8. That was ASA 9 at the time. You never heard of it, never thought of such a thing. But had it been, hey, we're going to have a spring game, it's going to look a little bit different, but we're also going to add these elements. All of a sudden, we're like, okay. And then you find out over time, hey, the starters are doing this and these guys are doing this. I think you make a great point. How many people do you think were there?
Yeah, I'd probably say under 10,000, something like that. I do want to throw in too, and I know you were one of them, so you might hesitate. It was very cool for me to see the former players out there getting into the competition too. Just kind of, that's another element. You could do that every year, and I think people would be happy. Like, oh yeah, we haven't seen, like you said, Josh Bullock was an All-American. That's the record for interceptions at Nebraska. Why hasn't he been in Memorial Stadium for 20 years? This could be a yearly excuse to bring back guys, honor them, and be able to see some of our favorite Huskers for many of us as adults, growing up or whatever, and showing them to our kids that, this was. So I just think that was a very cool element as well.
That's a great point. Maybe the spring game is back next year, and maybe they can add some of these elements to it. To be clear, I don't know the last time Josh was in Memorial Stadium. I hadn't seen him in 20 years.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So just to be clear on that, but no, that's something that would be definitely pretty cool. It was interesting because with the bench press and with the speed and with some of the other competitions they had, and to me, again, I was looking at the long snapper, I was looking at the field goal kicking competition. Special teams is what I was actually kind of the most intrigued in. Obviously, Dylan hits the 40, 50-yard pass through the basketball hoop, and that catches a bunch of traction. A lot of those things were pretty cool. I don't know. For me, I was kind of hoping they'd grab me to do the 225 bench press. Like I was staring right at Rule, trying to make eye contact. Like I really was.
Yeah.
I wasn't just going to walk up there and dub myself a guy to do it, but I was like, but it didn't work out. So,
well, to be fair, he was giving away $5,000 a rep, so maybe he didn't want you up there.
The most I've ever done, I did 41 at the NFL Vet Combine. I did 33 when I came out at the regular combine. I was pissed because my goal was 40, and I was mad at the guy who trained me, honestly. I'm not touching 40. There's also a way to train for endurance versus pure strength. Like I've been training to lose weight.
Yeah.
The nice thing about that is you're going to do a lot of reps. So there would have been a certain amount of endurance in there that might have helped me. Like I know I could have gotten 20. The goal is my number closer to 30 or 20, which by the way, I would have been furious at when I was playing 20. Like I was mad at 33. I thought 35 was going to be my bottom of the barrel. And again, later on, a few years later, I got 41. I think I could have gotten somewhere between 20 and 30. I don't know if it had been closer to 30. It probably would have been closer to 20, maybe 25.
And
if I had time to train for it, it could be interesting, though.
I said not to sell yourself short, too, because I always remember the stat. That 41 would have been the most at the combine that year, right?
It would have.
You got to mention that every time because that always blows my mind. Well, maybe not you. Maybe it comes off a certain way. But whenever I hear that, it's just like, man. And at that point, I mean, we saw it kind of with Barrett Ruud, too. It was just like a veterans minimum type of deal was kind of hurting a lot of the veterans for getting opportunities because that's what I felt. I was like, oh, man, if he's doing 41, that would raise his draft stock at the combine.
Yeah, it's kind of how it works out, though. And the NFL evolves over time, too. They don't even do the NFL Vet Combine anymore. So, let's see here. We've got a couple of clips. We've got some updates to do. Any other final thoughts on the Husker games from your end as a guy who attended? Well, let me ask you this. What did your son think?
Well, he liked the like I said, he liked meeting Little Red and Herbie. Was somewhat entertained, and then after a while, I just show him YouTube on his phone. So he's 4 years old. I'm still working on his Husker fandom a little.
His attention span isn't longer than that.
Yeah,
I completely understand, and honestly, I completely relate, my friend.